offseason is already heated up for the Chicago Bulls, and basically since the end of the season, there's been tons of speculation on the Bulls draft. We ended up moving up from number 9 to number 4. Of course, we knew that we were going to have a new front office search, which landed us Bryson Graham. He turned around and hired AC Law and Steven Mervis, and the head coaching search. Well, yesterday we had a list of 5 final candidates, and another candidate has been added to that, and now the Chicago Bulls will officially not hire. They will interview Johnnie Bryant. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Plus, we're going to talk about trade rumors around the Chicago Bulls. We're going to play facts or caps again. The rumor that the Chicago Bulls could trade up with Memphis and acquire Ja Morant has popped back up. I want to talk a little bit about that. And plus, there have been new rumors that have popped up in regards to the Chicago Bulls possibly landing Evan Mobley or Jarrett Allen if the Cavs decide to blow up their roster. We're going to play facts or cap a little bit with that one as well. We're going to talk about all that plus more right after this. What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today, y'all. And no, we're going to get into facts or cap, but first, we do have a bit of news. Now, when one thing happened with this team, when they over the weekend, it was announced that they had planned on interviewing Johnnie Bryant. Then when Brett Siegel came out with his list of the 5 candidates for the Chicago Bulls position, Johnnie Bryant was actually one of the names that was left off that list. Well, according to Mark Spears, he's back on because the Chicago Bulls have officially gotten permission to interview Johnnie Bryant. He is added to that list of in-person interviews for the Chicago Bulls. And so what I think that we're seeing here, right, is that the Bulls had a list of coaches that they planned on interviewing. I think that was the 11-person list that we heard. I'm taking that now as that was the list of names that the Bulls were interested in interviewing. They reached out for official interview requests, and now we're seeing the ones that are slowly trickling in with that are the official interviews. That's the way that I'm taking this now. Now, Johnnie Bryant, we've talked heavily about him. This is a guy that has the modern basketball philosophies, right? Another guy that has worked under some really good head coaches. He worked under Tom Thibodeau. He has a really good defensive mind, but also he does have that offensive pace and space mind, which I think is really important for the modern NBA. He does have that modern spacing when it comes down to that. And so now with Johnnie Bryant officially entering the Chicago Bulls coaching search. Now, I do think that it's funny that this comes the day of just a few hours after it was officially announced that the Cleveland Cavaliers will be retaining Kenny Atkinson as their head coach. So no chance that he's getting fired this offseason. I think that goes hand in hand, right? And I think I talked about that a little bit on yesterday's episode too, is that, that maybe the reason Johnnie Bryant was not on that 5-man list that we heard yesterday just came down to, if the job with the Cleveland Cavaliers does open up, he'll have an opportunity to stay in that role and stay in that job. Now, since it's been official, I just think it's a little bit funny that the same day and within hours of us getting word that Kenny Atkinson is not going to be removed, they're not going to be looking to make a coaching change, that Johnnie Bryant is now back in with the Chicago Bulls. So I think that goes into that, right? So I think when you look at this thing with Johnnie Bryant, he is the associate head coach with the Cleveland Cavaliers, a really good X's and O's mind. I think that he's somebody that also is, like I said in the episode where I focused on him, he is probably the best development coach of any of the guys that we've interviewed. When you look at the number of stops that he's been on, the number of players that he's helped develop, all the way going from in Utah with Gordon Hayward, Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert, helping turn that team into a legit playoff team, and he was the orchestrator of that defense. He turned that into a top-tier defense. Every step of the way that Johnnie Bryant has gone, he's turned out and improved defenses while developing players as well. He's had that, right? Donovan Mitchell was giving him credit at 2 different stops of helping him take his game to the next level. So if Johnnie Bryant is a real head coaching candidate, this is another strong assistant that plays into what we've been seeing from Bryson Graham. Development is a focus here. I think when you see all these guys that are on this final list now, development has been something they've all done at different stops. And it just shows how important and that Bryson Graham understands development is. And that is something that I think, we missed with the last era. Of course, AK and Eversley, they brought in Dan Craig, they brought in Wes Unseld, two former heads of players development themselves. But I never really thought we really had that development focus like I really wanted this team to do. So, I think he is a real head coaching. I like the idea of Johnnie Bryant here a lot. I just don't want Bulls fans to fall into the trap of thinking every assistant that comes from a successful team is going to bring that success with them. It's not always transferable like that. But to the credit of it, that's part of the evaluation process, right? You look at somebody's resume, and then you sit down with them and you hear their pitch for your team, and you try to decide okay, does it feel like that's going to bring that over to this team? And I think that's a right thing to have with this team. That's where you kind of want to be with all of it. So I like I said before, I like that. I like Johnnie Bryant as a candidate. He's not in my top three. My top three still go to Chris Quinn. Dave Bliss is definitely up there as well, and Sean Sweeney. Those are my top three candidates for this. But Johnnie Bryant is a good one, a really good one too. And I want to be clear on that. He is a really good candidate to potentially take this over, as is Tiago Splitter. And I want to focus on that for a second. A lot of people, every time Tiago Splitter comes up, they say, I don't think Portland's going to let him go. I need you guys to actually look at the situation that's going on with Portland. Almost everybody in the basketball world, now they think it's a travesty, and I agree with that too. I think it's poor management by the Portland Trail Blazers ownership, but it doesn't seem like they care about keeping Tiago Splitter because they want him to take a salary that would be the lowest paid salary as a head coach in the NBA. And Tiago Splitter, in doing the job, getting that team to being a playoff team, getting an over 500 record, it just does not seem like he's willing to do that, which I don't blame him. So, again, that doesn't mean that the Bulls would have to make him the highest paid coach, but it does mean that, he is respecting his ability and things like that. So, Johnnie Bryant is a guy that brings, again, organizational growth, player development focus. He has a really good basketball mind. The X's and O's part is there. It's legitimate. I like that with him. And I think that he's a guy that provides the necessary upside and could really develop into a really good head coach. I think he has the mindset and mentality, too. One thing that I want from the Bulls' next head coach is to get somebody that is truly a leader on the basketball court, a leader of men, right? Somebody that gets a little fired up there on the sidelines sometimes. And no necessarily knock. It's just not Billy Donovan's personality, but how many times did we see Billy Donovan really get in the face of a ref? Now, we saw it a couple of times, but I think Johnnie Bryant, Sean Sweeney, definitely. Sean Sweeney, definitely, right? These are guys that are going to get in faces of refs, and Chris Quinn as well, right? So that's kind of the things that I want there. But Johnnie Bryant now officially added to the list. But with us talking about the Cleveland Cavaliers and their associate head coach, I want to talk about how the Cleveland Cavaliers collapse has now played into Bulls rumors, right? Now, this comes from, and when it comes down to rumors, I like to point out the writer, not to call anybody out. This isn't to call anybody out, right? But just so people can go look at it. And I'll do my best. I often forget, but I'll do my best to link the article in the description of this, both on the podcast side and on the YouTube side. But this is per Andrew Hanlon, who's a writer for Pimpin' Ain't Easy. So I want to make sure it's clear on that. This is not a rumor. Haize is starting. This is coming from Pimpin' Ain't Easy and Andrew Hanlon. But talking about the Bulls, and trade rumors between them and the Cleveland Cavaliers, saying this, that changes are coming in Cleveland after the Cavaliers' playoff disappointment. Things are going to look different in the land next year, especially after the Cavs led by 22 points with 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter before blowing game one and concluding their season by losing 37 points at home. President of Basketball Operations Kobe Altman made somewhat an all-in move by trading Darius Garland to L.A. in exchange for James Harden. Unsurprisingly, Harden faltered and disappeared in the playoffs. He goes on to say, and this, I'm not going to read the whole article, go read it, but he did say this: Bulls should approach the Cavs with interest in Mitchell, Allen, and Evan Mobley. Okay, I want to play facts or cap a little bit with this, right? Evan Mobley is, as a big, one of the most versatile defenders in the league. He can rotate, he can switch out, he protects the rim really well, right? And again, I know people are going to go look, well, his block numbers are, rim protection is not just about blocks, right? He's also 24 years old and does fit the Chicago Bulls timeline. Jarrett Allen is 28. He's still athletic. He's a really good rim protector as well. He's somebody that is low usage. You don't have to run a lot of offense for him. That may be part of the problem with the Cavs. And Donovan Mitchell just doesn't make sense at all for the Chicago Bulls. And again, no offense to Andrew Hanlon. I don't mean that. This is just me and my own thoughts. You guys know I'm very direct. It can come off harsh. I don't mean it that way. But I don't understand why anybody with a right mind would think that the Bulls should trade for Donovan Mitchell. Not with a $50 million contract and a player option in 2027-28 for $53 million. I can understand the the Evan Mobley. He's young. He's 24. He would fit the Chicago Bulls timeline, even though he's already getting paid at $50 million, right? But at the same time, he kind of fits the Bulls timeline. Jarrett Allen, $28 million. He's 28 years old. Doesn't technically fit the age timeline, but the position is a position of need. It's only 3 years left on the deal. That's about how much we'd have to pay for Walker Kessler and the other center in the free agent market, and we can absorb the contract in the 3-team trade if needed, send out picks, whatever's needed to help facilitate a deal, right? But it's almost as if people didn't hear the fact that Bryson Graham said we're not going to skip steps. Now, people are going to ask and they're going to react and say, well, Haize, what's the difference between trading for a player that's 28 years old or 24 years old, 25-ish with Evan Mobley for on their contracts than signing Walker Kessler or Peyton Watson, whoever else? Isn't that also skipping steps or rushing the timeline? And here's what I'll say to that. No, it's not. And that's why I want to play facts or caps with. Trading for a player, even on a $30 million contract, is not the same as signing a free agent or restricted free agent at the same money. And here's why. It's simple. You have to give up future assets to trade for a player. If you're signing a restricted free agent, you're signing them into your cap space, meaning you are not giving up future assets, meaning you are not also giving up cap space and a first-round pick. Those are very different things. And one of the examples I want to use on this, right, is that when you have cap space and a young roster that has flexibility, that's when you want to bet on young players that can grow in roles. That is what the New York Knicks did with Jalen Brunson. Go back and look. Jalen Brunson was a player that showed tons of promise with the Dallas Mavericks. But for what it's worth, he had to play off Luka Doncic, and the Dallas Mavericks at that point in time viewed Jalen Brunson as a player that was like expendable because it was almost looked at as, yeah, I mean, your job here is to play off. And don't get me wrong, in the off-court minutes, which I think is what the Knicks really looked at, is when Jalen Brunson had to play when Luka Doncic was off the court, you saw the flashes of what he's become with the New York Knicks. But what the New York Knicks did is they bet on those flashes and they bet on giving him a larger role, and he blossomed into an absolute star. You look at it, from his last year in Dallas, averaging 16.3 points per game, he ballooned up to 24 points per game that next year with his first year with the New York Knicks, then 28 and then 26 each of the last years. But it wasn't just about the output. He became the engine of the New York Knicks offense. Now, the New York Knicks were further along in their process than where the Bulls are now. So that's the fair part of it. We're going to shoot it fair, right? But for anybody that says, and I've seen this conversation go so on in social media on, well, the Bulls don't want to rush the process. Why would we want to sign a free agent? And I want to be clear. I'm not saying that that's the only thing that the Bulls can do with their cap space. The Bulls can absolutely decide to take on bad money and stack picks. That is also a valid use of the Chicago Bulls cap space, right? This isn't an either or. It's just, well, I mean, you would have to decide on either or path, or technically you can do both. If the Bulls were to sign a free agent for like 30, 35-ish million, that leaves another 20, 25-ish that you can take on bad salary and stack some more picks. So technically the Bulls could, it would be a tight line to walk, but technically they could. But I think overall in this, it just comes down to signing a restricted free agent takes no future assets other than your money. Unless you're doing sign and trade, which I don't think the Bulls should do, especially if it's going to take a first-round pick. People make the false equivalency to the Bulls signing DeMar DeRozan and Alex Caruso. That's not the same, right? When the Bulls signed DeMar DeRozan, we didn't have any cap space, meaning that's why we had to give a sign and trade and give up a first-round pick because we didn't technically have any cap space. The Bulls have the most cap space in the league. So it's a different situation now if you're going to sign even a restricted free agent. And so that's why I say, like, it's all about calculation. I'm not saying that the Bulls should just go into it and just look to say, let's just spend money to spend it. But if you have a chance to give a young player a role to blossom in where that role may not be there. Like, for example, Peyton Watson re-signs with the Denver Nuggets, which is still very likely. I want to point that out too. But if he re-signs with the Denver Nuggets, he's there to play a complementary role. If he signs with the Chicago Bulls, you have 3 years to see what can this guy turn into, right? We have complete open, right? So you're not necessarily already signing that deal to play complement to another star. It means that you are playing for fit and you have to play together. You're not coming in and you're not just giving the keys automatically, but you have a chance to see that player blossom into what they can turn into, right? So I think that there's a big difference in trading for players with 30 million plus contracts and signing a player to a 30 plus million. You got to spend your money one way or another. You're going to spend your money, right? And so I think that's what you have to look at for. Evan Mobley may fit it timeline age-wise. And I'll say this, like, if the Bulls were to use all their cap space somehow to get Evan Mobley in a deal and absorb his salary and add him to this Bulls team, let's say you do get, let's say it is Caleb Wilson, right? And then you get Evan Mobley, and you say, all right, bet, Evan Mobley, we're going to actually play you at center. Caleb Wilson, you play either the 3 or 4, Miles will play the other forward position, and we're going to see what this looks like. Evan Mobley, you have a creator like Josh Giddey now that can help you even more get the ball on the offensive side of the ball. There are some people that doubt if Evan Mobley can actually play center in this league, but he's still listed as center. 6'11", 215 pounds, a little bit slight there, but I think when you see the defense that he's played over his career, you know that he's a guy that can play that role. So, again, complete speculation on Andrew Hanlon's part. He's not, in this article, he's not pushing it as like, hey, this is going to happen. The Bulls are about to trade for Evan Mobley. It's more so looked at as like hey, this is a possibility that could happen with where the Cleveland Cavaliers are and where the Chicago Bulls are. And I'll say this, all right, let's see, right? Like, again, I'd be more apt to spend the money in free agency because you're not having to give anything up. Believe me, if you trade for Evan Mobley, you're giving up multiple first-round picks. Even if you're absorbing most of his salary in a 3-team trade and the Cavaliers are taking another player and all the picks are going to a rebuilding team or something like that, you're still probably putting in multiple first-round picks. So it just comes down to that one. But I want to hear from you guys in this one. Hearing this, and again, go read the article yourself so you have I wasn't going to recap the whole article. The article yourself from Andrew Hanlon over on Pippen Ain't Easy. But if the Cleveland Cavaliers do look at this roster and say, Jarrett Allen, Evan Mobley, one of these guys have to leave, do you think the Bulls should be interested in helping facilitate that deal one way or another and getting one of those players in that deal? Let me know what you guys think on that part down below. Last topic of the day before we get up out of here. This is another article reaction from a writer, and that is talking about the Bulls moving up from number 4 up to number 3 in a trade with the Memphis Grizzlies and the Bulls acquiring Ja Morant. Now, we heard this rumor probably a few weeks ago. This one comes from Jack Simone, I believe is the name of the writer. Let me make sure I got it right. Yeah, Jack Simone is the name of the writer, also over on Pippen Ain't Easy, so take that for what you will. And he goes on to write this, right? The Chicago Bulls have the number 4th overall pick in the 2026 draft. The Memphis Grizzlies sit at number 3. It may not be likely, but the Bulls should inquire about the chance of trading up to the pick to select Cam Boozer, taking on Ja Morant's contract in return. Obviously, more assets will go to Memphis, but it could be an intriguing idea. Again, recap of the article. I'm not reading the whole article. Here's the thing. Now this again, and it's funny how you can always kind of link how the thought process goes, right? This is after we heard yesterday that the Bulls are interested in moving the number 4 pick only in a trade up. That's it. They're not trading down. They're only interested in moving it if it involves trading up. So that's a thing that you can take from this. Here's the thing that I say with this. Even moving up 1 pick in this draft is not worth taking on the contract of Ja Morant. It's just not. I'm sorry. Ja does not fit this team. I'd rather see the cap space. If we're going to use the cap space, it go to a player that fills a role that we need. I know that not everybody's high on Josh Giddey. I get that. It's not that. But like Ja Morant has a $42 million contract this year, $44 million contract the season after that, right, in 2007-28. And I just, like, Ja Morant is a player that over the last few years, his production has gone down. His health has gone down. The average numbers of games have gone down. All that type of stuff. It's not worth it moving up 1 pick. It's not. Now, if you were talking about moving up 2 picks and you're saying, hey, we can get either Darren Peterson or AJ DeBonsta by moving up 2 picks and all we got to do is take on the last 2 years of Ja Morant's contract, maybe, just maybe if that's it and you're not sending any other assets. But even with that said, man, like taking on that level of contract, yes, we have the cap space to do it, to move up to 1 pick, unless you have Cam Boozer rated that much higher than Caleb Wilson, I don't feel that move at all, right? And that's not to say that Ja Morant isn't still a talented player. Like, I forgot until I went back and looked. Ja Morant is only 26 years old. He's been in the league since 2019. He's only 26 years old. He does turn 27 before the start of the next season. But it's just like, you look at it. In 2022-23, he played 61 games. He played 9 games in 23-24, 15, 24, 25, and 20 last season. His shot production has gone down each of the years from 47 to 45 to 41. His three-point shooting percentage last year was 23%, still taking 4 3-pointers per game. And his turnovers 3.6 compared to 8.1 assists. I'm good. Like, and no knock on Ja Morant. If Ja Morant was a free agent or something, maybe different. But like, I just, to me, moving up only one pick and taking on that much. Now, if you can reroute Ja to a third team, let's say that the Bulls and Memphis talk, the Bulls want to move up to make sure they can get Cam Boozer, and they find a third team to take on Ja, and that third team then puts the picks in, the Bulls don't have to give up additional picks, and you kind of move things around like that. Maybe I'd be interested in that point in time, but I'm not interested at this point in taking on Ja Morant's contract for the Chicago Bulls to move up one draft spot. And maybe I'm wrong on that. Like, again, this is a living conversation. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on it as well. But like, it's again, asset management is the thing here. And I don't know if that's the right way to manage your assets to move up one spot. Caleb Wilson is still so good of an option there at number 4. And I get it that Cam Boozer is viewed as a different level of a prospect because of the high floor that he has there. Caleb Wilson has to work on his jump shot. But I say this, a player that averaged almost 20 points per game with a questionable jump shot that still has the right form on that jump shot, I'd be willing to bet on that because of also the defensive upside that's there with him. That's just my personal opinion. Again, you guys, I want to hear from you guys on this one. Would you take on Ja Morant's contract if it guaranteed you the chance to land Cam Boozer? Let me know what you got. Are you guys kind of comfortable with who falls? I think one of the benefits of where the Bulls are at 4 is that they have the ability to wait to see who falls there and takes it because they're all really good options. That's just my personal opinion on it. You guys can say a lot. I say this, though. We got to remember Bryson Graham's vision in all this. And like I've said many times about all of this, is that it's not one specific rumor, but I do think this points towards the fact that the Bulls are looking at a wide range of candidates with their coaching search. They're looking at all the opportunities and all the options with their draft picks. And that goes to what this Bryson Graham era is laying the foundation for in their first year, their first draft, is flexibility, decision-making, and just setting a clear foundation, right? The goal should be simple this offseason. Add talent, protect your flexibility either in the immediate and the long term, find the right coach, and build a team that makes sense with what you're doing with your picks at 4 and 15, the players that you already have on this team. We are seeing the beginnings of what Bryson Graham's era is going to be with the Chicago Bulls. This isn't about winning the offseason. It's about building something that's a solid and turns this team into a serious franchise. That's what this is about. And we'll see if the Bulls can do that. I hope that they can, and I have faith in Bryson Graham, and we're going to see what Bryson Graham does with this opportunity because, tell you what, he has an opportunity to really reinstill faith from a fan base that lost it. And we'll see if he can do that. But that's going to do it for today's Chicago Bulls Central. The biggest thing for me in all this is that Bryson Graham doesn't have to rush a single thing. He doesn't have to rush this rebuild. If he decides to stay aggressive with the right approach, that's great too, right? First we need to find the right coach, and then we're gonna build the rest. But drop your thoughts down below. How interested are you in Johnnie Bryant as the next head coach of the Chicago Bulls? Should the Chicago Bulls trade for either Jarrett Allen or Evan Mobley? And would you take on Ja Morant's contract if it helped you move up one spot in this deep draft? Let me know you guys' thoughts on all that down below. Make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel as well. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode or an upload. You can follow us at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullcentralpod@gmail.com. And lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, but that is thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See you ready if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.